Thank you very much, the moderator, my friend Philip Kisia. His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, party leader, Wiper Democratic Party, Ludovic Wamalwa, party leader, Democratic Action Party, my good friend, the chairman of the Jubilee Party, Mr. Saitoti Torome, honorable members of parliament here present, the great lady who administered the oath, Eunice Lumalas, assisted by Council Degwanjiru. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My colleagues in the United Opposition sat and agreed that there's too much trauma that has happened, too many atrocities that have been committed, that we explore ways of addressing various issues that be there for this country. I will be calling on them to make their statements at an appropriate time, because we will not be long ourselves. Safe to introduce this subject. Council Ndegwanjiru was given the constitutional anchor upon which this commission, PRJC, is posited. But I also want to observe that in all societies, emerging from a history of oppression and gross human rights violations, face the challenge of reconciling their past. This is not new. It has happened in various parts of the world. A people-led commission seeking to restore justice among its citizens. And I want to appreciate that here in Kenya, we've had some numerous attempts to will not be having references to such in our constitution. About the events of the last few weeks, this month indeed, last week, the week before. Is it possible for the parents, relatives, and friends of those that were brazenly gunned down by policemen to accept and move on? The various efforts that we've seen, including prosecutions, are done in such a way that you can tell from the start that they are designed to flop, leaving families and communities with long-lasting bitterness. Indeed, you leave families, communities, neighbors traumatized. We are all quite aware that after the madness of 2007, 2008, post-election violence, there was born the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission. It was anchored on an act of parliament. But I don't know whether my two friends, Honorable Robert Mbue and Honorable Mule, would remember that actually, during the 11th Parliament, government moved an amendment to the TJRC Act, which, for all intents and purposes, made that TJRC report nearly unenforceable against anybody, known or indeed against government. Yet, you read the TJRC report, it has documented various historical injustices committed to individuals, families, communities. So, the trauma persists. So we've asked ourselves the question, for how long shall this continue? Yet, we have an acclaimed constitution that's so robust in its provisions in the Bill of Rights, which is chapter 4. How are those victims, their relatives, friends, and communities to receive justice? How are we to restore justice to those people, to those communities? It's for that reason that proceeding on the authority, as explained by Council Degwanjiro, we've taken it upon ourselves and the leadership, and we want to invite Kenyans to appreciate that the authority granted to us is derived from Article 1 of the Constitution. Our approach and core values will adopt a restorative justice framework rooted in the African values of Ubuntu. And this approach prioritizes restoration of dignity to victims and survivors. The approach also aims to rebuild individuals, families, and communities, and indeed the nation. For we can talk about economic growth, but what does it mean to the mother whose child was taken more than a year ago without trace and has not received any answer as to whether the son is alive or dead? You can have the SGR, you can extend it to wherever, even the DRC. But that mother, that father, that brother, that sister will still remain with pain. This approach aims at trying to rebuild those families and communities, and in the process, build a more caring nation. In the process, we will seek to establish the truth, Mheshimiwa Mbue, and see whether we can bring some healing and some form of closure. And then, where necessary, bring in forgiveness and reconciliation. We also aim through this commission to put to an end this impunity that we have witnessed in this country by embracing the principle of never again. Never again. By also putting memorializing, and through remembrance. We also aim to create mechanisms to support healing. And through our partners, seek to do compensation and restoration for victims, survivors, and communities. Ladies and gentlemen, I was merely to introduce, because we will be doing a lot more, but for the avoidance of doubt, if it is not on the screen, Ben, is it on the screen? I wish to announce, since we intend to hit the road running, that we've set up a website for ease of engagement with the public, through which we will receive petitions, representations, and other material, whether anonymously or otherwise. Other programs will be announced by, I don't know whether is it on the, it's there, eh? Very well, thank you very much. Other programs which we intend to undertake will be communicated by the other colleagues with whom we've taken the oath of office, because we intend to hit the stage running. So that was merely to give you the approach that we intend to use. You'll be given staff relating to how we intend to address the culture of impunity, how we intend to carry out investigations, and preserve evidence. There will be measures which will be interim, and I wish to assure Kenyans that whatever they give us is so secure. We should not worry about certain mischievous activities that we have seen in recent times from government trying to interfere with things that are done in all spheres of governance. But we will not be limited to merely human rights violations. We intend to also deal with issues that relate to state capture, as well as institutional corruption. And I just want to give some small example here as I sit, that in the 8th Parliament, some effort was made, led by the Honorable Musikari Kombo. Of course, when, as you all know, Kanu was whitewashed, that report, which had what we used to call the list of shame. When Kanu was whitewashed by NAC in the elections of 2002, the efforts led by the Honorable Musikari Kombo gave rise to two very key pieces of legislation that are still in force today in Kenya, but very, very sparingly used. One, of course, we know because we have the EACC, they always pretend to be doing this or the other. But there's a key governance legislation that came out of that effort. The Public Officer Ethics Act, number 3 of 2003, alongside the Economic Crimes and Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, the ASECA. We intend to give effect to these laws because we believe if everybody inculcated what is and practiced what is in the Public Officer Ethics Act, we would see very little institutional failure brought about by endemic corruption in this country. With those remarks, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite the moderator to call the next commissioner. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening to me.